I spent 11 days building a horror game using only AI. But is the game actually any good? To answer that question, I'm gonna have my wife play the game right now to see if the game is actually scary. Once she's done playing, I'll go over the entire process step by step so that you guys can see how I built this. And thank you Neural4D for sponsoring this video. More on them later. Alright, let's get into the gameplay. Oh, and by the way, if you want to play this yourself, the link is down below. You can play it on itch.io.
Oh.
You have to be kidding me.
Oh, that's it? Oh, okay. W-A-S-T. Okay. Oh my god. Oh, okay. So W-A-S-T. Okay, I get it. E, this pane is reinforced. Solid as a wall. Okay.
And the mouse is to move.
Okay.
Your pinky, if you press shift, you can move faster.
Locked. And the glass is thick. I need something to break it.
Oh, okay. So, there's two lights. I'm gonna go towards the yellow light. What's that sound? Was that me? Oh. Oh. Okay. Is it gonna get me if I... I'm scared. Okay, but it's going towards the house. Oh, Mary! The creatures in the woods hate the light. Okay. Okay, so they hate the light.
Creatures hate the light? Plain keys. That might be my way out. A flashlight, thank God. Battery's half dead already.
F. There's a lot of controls here. Like, it's gonna be hard for me to figure out which one's which. Okay, we're just gonna move away from that. Oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna go towards the red light now. How do I know when it's getting closer to me? Oh, there's another one. Shit. Let's just keep looking at it. Oh.
Oh God, the light. It hates the light.
Oh.
It actually hates the light.
It's so creepy. Wow. Oh my god. Is it coming back? Okay, now I have to go back to the light. Again? Yo.
No. Not you too.
Okay.
It's a fence.
Thanks a lot.
There's no way through. There was never a way through here.
Oh, thank God. Forgot about that. You know, my only complaint is this keyboard.
For the Xbox.
What does that say? Fable furnishings.
Through the
That's
store.
loud.
There has to be another way out of this.
Okay. Oh. Wait, what? I can go into that? Okay, there has wait, how am I getting in like that? I'm getting in through there? Okay. Oh. Why is there a tree like that? Oh, no, I want to get out. Am I like crawling? Oh. Those footsteps like creep me out. No, I don't want to go anymore. Wait, is that gonna do anything? What does that actually do? No. What do I do? Okay, does the flashlight do anything to that thing? Why are you standing there looking at me like this? Oh. Oh, shit. Okay, the power's on. Oh my god, I hear stuff. What do I do? Does that do anything? What the? I'm making one for it. Is it chasing me? How am I supposed to win this game? The flashlight doesn't even work on them.
The flashlight doesn't affect them.
Okay, so we found that out. Alright, flashlight doesn't work on them. So what? Just make a run for it? And then there's like a weird switch.
Yeah, I'll switch it. And the lights are on.
The lights are on. Okay. Okay, so the lights are on, which means that I just have to make a run for it. I don't know. I guess that's what I'll do. It's freaky. Is it chasing? Is it still chasing me? Oh, I'm scared. I think I'm just running.
This might help me navigate my way out of here.
Okay. Well, these are cameras.
Why would that guy try to turn off the lights? And why would that other monster want to keep the lights on?
That's a good question. Okay, so the light is already on, so then we just have to turn off the light. Okay. But how am I supposed to? I still hear that spider thing. Oh my god, are you kidding me? How am I supposed to escape that thing? Okay, but that thing just went the way that I wanted to get to. Oh wait, there's another way. Oh shit, where am I going? I forgot. Isn't that the way that I just came from? Okay, I have to get. The guy's like there. How am I supposed to? Okay. This is a really difficult game. Another one? Are you kidding me? I'm scared. Oh, I see him in the map. Okay, I just have to get past him? I don't know how I'm supposed to do that, but okay. Oh my god, is that the guy?
Don't move. Don't breathe.
Wait, don't move?
I can't see. I can't see
How am I
anything.
supposed to not move? Yeah, there's a thing there. I can't see anything.
It looks like those creatures from the woods are killing the creatures inside. That makes sense now.
Oh.
This thing needs the power to be on.
So I have to go back? Are you kidding me? Oh, I just saw something. Is that spider thing? What the hell is that? It's a heartbeat. Okay, so we need to go turn the power back on. How am I supposed to get past that? Okay. Are the lights still off? Oh shit. I don't understand how I'm supposed to get out of here. That baby looking thing is still there. It looks like a baby. Is it coming this way? Oh. No, I'm trying to. Alright, go! Oh!
You don't have to finish again.
Because clearly I don't know what I'm doing.
1 to 10, how scary of a game is it?
It's really scary.
All right, big shout out to my wife for going through that, and drop a comment down below if you actually beat the whole game. I don't want to spoil the game for you guys, so I'm not going to have her play it till the end. And before I get into my workflow, I want to go ahead and just show the statistics of everything that the game cost me in terms of time, prompts, token usage. This is all of it for you guys right here. If you guys want to take a look through it, you can just pause the video right here. All right, so I don't know if you guys have watched the new Backrooms movie, but that's basically what inspired me to even start to build this game. And unlike a professional game developer, I started off by generating the characters, and I use Neural 4D for that because it allows me to enter the image of the character I want, and it generates it into a 3D character that I can use in the game. So I entered the screenshot from Google, and 2 minutes later I had my 3D character. And as you can tell, the quality is amazing. But this is a really high poly character. And for gaming, you want it to be a low poly character, or at least lower. So to do that, we're gonna hit the retopology option. Set the face count to 20,000, click the retopo button. And once that's done, you'll notice you'll get your new 3D asset, but a low poly asset. You might notice that the texture is gonna be a little bit beat up. What you do here is you just have to hit the texture button again, feed it the same image, then that will fix the texturing, and now you have a low poly asset that looks high quality. And you will see me use this platform throughout the video for multiple 3D assets. And if you guys want to use a similar approach for your game, click the link down below to use Neural 4D for free today and get an exclusive discount when you join. Thank you Neural 4D for sponsoring this video. Once my character is ready, I just have to download it and then import it into NordStage, which is a system that I created and completely free and available for you to use at nordstage.com. This is where I stage the game, and I also rig all the 3D characters. And the rigging process is pretty simple. So you just line up the bones. After you're done lining everything up, you just have to select the animations that you want to use. You can animate not only humans, but you can animate animals as well. I went ahead and created the other monsters, and yes, viewer discretion is advised because these monsters, I mean, the prompts that I created them with, I just try to make it as disturbing as possible, and it makes for a good scary game, but it was definitely weird making them. This is the human dog and the spider woman, very disturbing characters for a horror game, as you can tell. The cool thing about NordStage is that I can actually rig spiders and dogs, so this worked out perfectly. I was able to rig both characters, that way I could animate them in the game, but this process did take a very long time, especially for the spider. Dog was actually pretty easy, but the spider took a long time, but it paid off in the end. And I could have spent more time on this and making sure that the animations were perfect, but I was trying to do this also at a faster pace. I think that next time that I rig the spiders, I'll be able to do a better job. But the problem here is it's not an actual spider, so that's what made it harder. But you can tell here that the dog is definitely a lot easier to rig. So if you guys have any animals that you want to bring in here, this is one of the easiest ways to do it. There's not many platforms that allow you to rig animals, so this is a good feature that I've added. And Neural 4D has said that they're going to be adding rigging as well, so I'm looking forward to that so that I don't have to jump from platform to platform. And I'm sure that they can probably make an even better rigging system for their models than I have here. So I'm looking forward to that. And that was the lineup for the monsters here. The Rake, I got it from Sketchfab actually. I was scrolling through Sketchfab before generating my monsters and I found it, and I just thought it would look so cool that I had to add it. So I did add that one to the lineup. And then I imported the map, which was also from Sketchfab. Shout out to the creator of this map. Also map, one of the main things was that I needed to figure out which one I wanted to make the entrance of the store, and the entrance of the store just didn't make much sense, so I had to create a little section for the storefront, since this map didn't really have any type of entrance that really made sense from the layout for my use case. So I just kind of created this from shapes, and this is actually when I added the shape feature to NordStage. So I'm actually building out this system as I need tools. I just got it, and you guys can just use those for free. But it's things that I just find myself needing that I don't have, but I know that there's tools that have this. I just would rather have it implemented with the system that the AI is using so that I can work with the AI one-on-one a lot faster. So this is just me basically building that out. I had to resize the windows, and it's definitely not perfect, but in the moment it fixed the issue that I had with the storefront. For the field, my initial thoughts were that I wanted to have a big field, woods, trees, and just have the player have to go through that knowing that there's creatures out there, just to add to some of the suspense. So the Rake was definitely going to be the one that was going to be on the outside. The storyline of the actual game morphed throughout the process, because the initial story was one thing, and then what I ended up with was different. Just as I went along, the story kind of came together better than the initial idea. So, and you can see that from the whole process as we move along. For example, there's 2 Rakes now, but there was only going to be one in the beginning. I decided that this is going to be the exit, and the pirate will be the gatekeeper of the exit, and this is going to be where he's going to hang out for the most part. So I went ahead and placed him here and just made sure that he was the right size for the space without him clipping through the ceiling, which for the most part he was crouching, so that wasn't much of an issue. For the inside of the map, I was trying to figure out a way of having the communicating to the AI what the path will be for the different monsters. This is actually one of the moments when I started implementing the bird eye view with the draw feature to create paths. I was in the middle of creating the GTA game at the time, and I had just implemented this feature. So my idea was, all right, let me just have it, I'm gonna draw on the ceiling of the map from a bird eye view so that the AI can visually visually see what the layout of the map is, and also so that the AI knows the paths that the monsters need to take. So in my mind, this was a clever way to get around that. And so this is me just communicating with the AI to let it know what the map looks like on the inside, so that it can help me create the paths for the monsters. All right, so at this point in time, I basically had everything staged: the map, the characters. I was placing the characters in place: the dog, the pirate, the spider, and the rake in the outdoors. And then I went ahead and asked Claude to go ahead and just build the whole thing from what we had so far. And I made sure to tell it to also use the game document that we have created, so that it has some idea of what the game loop is and what the storyline is overall. So I told it, read the game design document end to end and review it carefully before starting. Use all the map nodes to visualize the 3D layout and understand the floor plan. Focus on the mechanics and the core game loop first. Leave the aesthetics for later. Build it in the newer stage under the game project Claude's Backrooms. And so that was the prompt. And then I sent it out, and this was the gameplay so far. So we had our starting position, we had a little flashlight, and at first Claude was just testing everything was working, mechanics, floor collision. The player gets a notification saying that they need something to break the glass. All right, and so at this point in the game loop, I basically only had the fact that you had to go and grab a bat to open and break the storefront. That was it. That part was working, so we can continue. So after getting the first part done, in terms of having to pick up the bat and break the window, that was working. I was testing the floor collision inside the map that we downloaded from Sketchfab, and I noticed that it kept lagging when I was entering the map, and it might have had to do with the spider. I think I used the spider model that was not a lower poly spider model. So I got it to fix some of those issues in terms of the lagginess. I removed that model, and then obviously later on implemented it again, but for now we're going to use placeholders for the spider to continue building it. I noticed that the rake wasn't visible anywhere, and so Claude actually made a debugger tool to find the location of for me to visually see where the location was for the rakes on the top left corner. So that tool was useful, and we used it throughout the whole build after that. And it turns out the rake was just falling through the actual floor, which is why we couldn't see it. After Claude found the issue, that we could see the rake, but then I noticed another issue where the rake wasn't getting scared away by the flashlight the way it should. So it kept running away, and as soon as the flashlight would turn off or it would get at a distance, it would just come back and attack us. We checked to see if the light switches were working appropriately, and some of the monsters were on the roof. Then that probably had to do with my path being on the roof. So the coordinates of the paths that I drew from the bird eye point of view were actually on the ceiling. So Claude actually took that literal and put some of the monsters on the ceiling of the map. So at this point we had a list of few issues that we were just trying to fix. So the camera room was actually outside of the actual map as well. So I asked Claude to bring that back in, and the characters were obviously outside of the map also. The rake wasn't able to kill the player, so that was also another bug. As close as it was getting, it wasn't actually killing me, which was an issue. And the bug about the light, the rake just wouldn't run away far enough to make it a playable game. And the phone camera, so on the phone, when you pick up the phone, it should give you a map of the map. And it wouldn't actually show well enough to be able to tell it apart. So that was another issue that we were trying to fix at this moment in the game development process. So I was falling through the office when spawning in the office with the debug tool, and I was also spawning on the ceiling, which I actually never fixed that part because it didn't really bother me too much, but the office one I did need, and I kept falling through. So falling through the map, some of the characters were walking in place appropriately, and then the map on the top right corner, when you pick up the phone, there was no actual map. It was just kind of like a screen with moving dots, so that wasn't really helpful for the player. So then that's whenever I prompted the Claude to fix that part. At this point in time, we were in about prompt number 12, and so this didn't actually get fixed, or we didn't really realize what the issue was until prompt number 14, which is when we found out that the rake was actually, collision boxes kept the rake 3 meters from the player's collision box, which is one of the reasons why the rake wouldn't actually be able to kill the player when it got close enough. The other issues were being resolved, so the office was in place, the characters were in the building, but some of them were still clipping outside. And then we were also testing the on switch inside as well. So that blue box that you see would be the on switch. For me, just testing it out to make sure it works. There's no feedback on the lights yet, obviously, because we weren't worried about lights at the moment. We're just going off of signals. And the map still looked the same. So it wasn't until prompt 14 that we figured out the issue for the Rake. On prompt 15, So on prompt 15, I actually implemented a new feature to the Nor stage where you can just walk to draw the paths. So wherever you walk, it draws a path, and you can see me doing that here. And like I said, I was working on GTA 6 at the time as well, so we implemented that for that, and then I brought it back into this one at the same time and started building the path inside of the map so that Claude knows where I want the monsters to actually be able to walk. Instead of me trying to explain it, I can just walk the actual paths, and Claude has the exact coordinates in the 3D space. So that was a clutch moment for sure, in terms of being able to solve that issue, and just a new feature to Nor stage also, so you guys can use that for free. These are all tools that just come in as I need them, which is the best part about making a game that also improves the system that I'm building at the same time. And with that in mind, I actually also realized that I can have Claude just make the map on the phone go off of the walking path as well. So that actually solved two issues, was the phone map and the actual paths of the monster. So I prompted it to use that, and I also took a bird eye view screenshot of the map so that it kind of has a better idea of how to structure that map in the phone rendering on the top right corner. So the first generation was me asking it just simply to do it, and it gave me this walking path which labeled outdoors and indoors, and it was incorrect. So that's actually when I had the idea of using the walking path to make the actual map. So instead of just building the paths for just the monsters' paths of what they should take, I literally walked the whole map for the purpose of the phone rendering map to show, while also placing the notes, which also have the coordinates. So the notes have the coordinates and the paths have the waypoints of where everything is. And Claude actually uses this waypoint system in later stages to help with the paths of the monsters. So a lot of extra work that I'm sure tools are built for this already in actual game engines, but this is just me doing it my way. So I took the screenshot here and I gave it over to Claude to use along with the prompt with the walk notes. That's what I call them. The walking notes and the screenshot, and generate the map. The first iteration of the map actually just came out like a line map, literally drawing the paths, which was pretty cool to see, but it's not what I wanted. So I asked it to do it again, and then it gave me this, which was much closer to what the actual map looks. Instead of just doing lines, I asked it to clean it up. And so at the same time, it started using the walk nodes to create these waypoints, and it gave me a debug feature to actually be able to see them, along with a little thin yellow lines that I could also see to see where the paths were that the creatures were taking. And I put a note also to let the Claude know, I don't know what it was about the waypoints that was causing the player to also stutter on the waypoint, so it would stop at each waypoint, making it look like it was glitching. So I also informed Claude of that as well. So one resolution, it actually did solve the path problem for the creatures, but it was creating another issue, which was for the player, for something that seemed like a lag, but it wasn't a lag. It was just me running into those waypoints somehow. All right, and so now that was done, and we basically covered two phases already to this point. We implemented the game loop mechanics, and then we also implemented and fixed the pathfinding navigation of the monsters throughout the map. So phase 1 and phase 2 are complete, and phase 3 actually was to rework the game loop from what I originally had. So this was the pivot moment for the game loop, for something that just came to mind as I was playing it. I had a feel for the map, and I decided to make some adjustments to the actual game loop after running around the map a few times. So this is what I went with. I just asked Claude to review all the notes that I left on the map in terms of the new game loop. So the player now in the new game loop will start with no flashlight and must reach the shed first across the map to get the plane keys and the flashlight, plus a note that hints the Rake don't like the light, right? So this is just a little hint to the player that the rakes don't like the light. That's the new game loop. So the playing keys will actually indicate to the player that they should go to the airport, not knowing that they're gonna have to go into the store. They have to go to the airport, and then the airport will have the bat along with the airplane. Then they'll find out that the airplane doesn't work, so then they'll be forced to go into the store because they can't obviously use the plane. And so they're forced to go from the shed or cabin or whatever you want to call it to the airport, and then the airport will give them the bat, which then they can use to get into the actual store. So that's how the player will start their whole trip. And at this point, I don't even know how the player got there, so I don't really have that part of the storyline built out yet. This is just me going as I taking it day by day and figuring out the game loop and the storyline at the same time. So I gave this whole new storyline update and rework to Claude, and while it did that, I went over and started generating the assets for the new game loop just to start polishing everything up in terms of the way it looks, now that I had the game loop solidified in my head. And so for some of the assets, I went to Sketchfab, especially for the animated ones. I went to Sketchfab, and then the other ones I used Neural 4D for. So for the door, for the exit, I kind of wanted I was thinking a little door, like a bent door that opens when you hit a button. So I found this little, I guess, garage door is what it's supposed to be, but it looks like a vent. So it's animated. Shout out to that creator for making that asset. And then in this little closet, I was gonna add a button. So I started searching Sketchfab for a button, and I found this one that seemed to work perfectly for what we needed. So downloaded that and made sure that it looked nice, rotated it and sized it well, and put a note on it so that Claude knows where it's located and what it's supposed to do. So that's why those notes come in clutch. And then I added a plane on the opposite side of the map where the airport's gonna be. And I used the same model for the plane that I used in the GTA game. Put a note on that so that Claude knows where it is and what it's for and what it does. So that's the reason those notes, I do that. The notes go on every asset, explaining to Claude where their location is and the asset is for, what the purpose of it is, whether it's animated, whether it's supposed to do something, whether it's part of the storyline, the mechanics, logic, anything. After I set up the plane, then I went over and I started looking for some keys for the plane. Figured it would be obvious if it had a little plane keychain on it, so I got a image from Google with a little plain keychain key, and I took it over to a Neural 4D and entered the image there and asked it to generate the keys for me. I also had Neural 4D generate the bat as well. So all the assets that were static assets that would add to the actual map and make the map look better, I generated those through Neural 4D. Also to ensure that they are high quality and also optimized for the game by making it low poly. So for the assets, I set them at 1200 base count because they're small objects and they don't really need that much in terms of the shapes. I don't know anything about shapes, assets, or anything from before this. I've learned all this as I go, just learning from the process itself. And I really liked how the keys came out, but I didn't like that they were blue. I wanted to signal that they were meant to go for that plane in case the player went to that plane first. So always trying to walk the player through the game without giving out the exact game. So I repainted the keys with a new texture. So after I generated the model, I just retextured it, which is awesome because I can basically have full control over what the textures look like using Neural 4D. Even after generating the model, you can just make it look different in terms of textures. I was also needed to create a lighthouse. So I went through a few iterations of the lighthouse airport, and then I wanted to have in the cabin, I wanted to have a person a decaying body that would just show that it was somebody who was there and they stayed there for a long time and they just weren't able to get out because of the creatures in the woods. So just felt like that would add a little bit more to the storyline. So we went ahead and added all those features. I started looking for furniture, figured there should be some packs for furniture in Sketchfab that I could just use some old furniture. Found this, shout out to the creator for that. And I found a couple doors. So the doors I ended up not using at the end, but I did find a few doors that never made it into the game because I ended up just making my own doors afterwards. And the light switches to make it more realistic, to be able to flip on and off. So I had my person that's gonna sit on the desk in the cabin, the cane body, named him Fable. At the time, Fable had been taken away, so it seemed just clever to name him Fable in honor of the Fable that was gone too soon, but now returned. Made the register as well, and then I also used the topology to make sure that they were low poly assets to use in the game. Had the flashlight. And as you can tell, like all the quality for all these assets came out great, and it didn't cost hardly any credits at all to use. So at the end, it was definitely worth the experience of the game. So I started setting all those up and putting them in place. I created a wall for the office room because it was just a dead end. So the office actually was just a dead end in the map. So I ended up creating a wall and putting the door and iterated through it over time throughout the game building process. The cabin itself also came from Sketchfab. I found this model on Sketchfab by this creator, and so we went ahead and used that because it had an open doorway, which is something I needed at the moment because I'm still working with collisions and learning more about collisions and doors and all of that stuff. So with the time that I had, I was not trying to figure all that stuff out. So something without a door was going to be useful. So I set everything up and staged it in North Stage with appropriate heights and sizes. And for the I staged the cabin, sized everything appropriately with cane body, and placed the office table in there as well, which I generated in Neural 4D also. I set up the placement for the keys and the flashlight. Once the cabin was set up, I started staging the airport. I was able to generate this low poly airport watchtower and then created a nice little simple runway for the plane, and that's also where the bat would go. And now that we had multiple assets in place, went ahead and did a little quick play test. This is when I realized the collision problem with the doors and the cabin. I was able to reach around the cabin and get the keys and stuff. So this is also when I remembered that we were still having the problem with the Rake not running away far enough from the flashlight. So went ahead and fixed that. Told Claude to make the Rake run 100 meters away from the player after being flashed by the flashlight. And also decided to handle the collision problem with invisible shapes around the cabin. So disabling all collisions for the cabin and the door, and then putting collision shapes around it and just making those invisible so that the player can't see them. And then I told Claude that when the player interacts with the door, then we should disable the collision shape that is on the door. So this was my workaround for that problem, and I'm sure that if you're an actual game developer, there's probably another way of doing this, but this is just how I found to be the easiest way to fix the issue at the moment. So I created my door shape, and I made sure to add note to the door so that Claude has context and knows where it's located and what it should do whenever it starts coding up the actual code for the game. I tried using a 3D asset for grass, and I guess you can't really do that because it's not optimal. I'm still not sure how you would go about making realistic looking grass. I still have to do some digging on that, but basically we tried to do that here, and Claude said that it's not a good idea because it's gonna lag the game. Apparently doing a bunch of tiles of grass throughout the whole floor is not ideal. So we ended up just doing texture for the floor. But yeah, we tried. And then I also got a tree pack. So some nature pack, that's actually where the trees came from. So those are the trees from Sketchfab. And I just told Claude to use that asset pack and just scatter the trees around the woods. And like I said before, I didn't really have a storyline for the player for the beginning scene. At this point in time, I had decided on the player ran out of gas on the road and has no signal, and that's basically when I decided that's what the storyline was going to be, and that's how we were going to handle it. So the gameplay, the loop, and the storyline were coming along very well. The Rake was running far enough from the player so that the player can pick up the bat and interact with the plane. And at this point in time, we were around prompt number 24 when we started working on the environment and lighting and atmosphere, and this took a big part of the game and probably still not fully resolved yet till this day. But this is when we started it, and I don't know why Claude was using low poly trees whenever I gave it the tree pack, but we had some issues where I couldn't see past a certain point, and the light that I wanted the watchtower to blink or have like a light that you can see from a distance, it was like a square
so I don't know why. I just had to fix that. Around this moment in time is also when I started adding features to NourStage for texturing and lighting. So you can see the little tabs on the left of the NourStage app. Right now it had 3, and by the end of the video it has 2 other tabs with textures and lighting. So I learned a lot about textures and lighting throughout this process. So I asked Claude to use the real trees, fog, and scattered trees, scattered forest props throughout the map, made the distance lights glow, fixed the red square and shed doors. The door was still a little bit off, so everything was coming together. There's more lighting in place. I didn't like the fact that the lights were some weird glowing little circles from a distance, and you can also see the lights from the outdoors when you were indoors, which I didn't like either, so I had to fix that. Not sure why that was happening. And there was a problem with the bat at this moment in time, so that was another bug with the bat. So we ran through the game, tested everything, and then just added a bunch of notes to the things that needed to be fixed. I took a bunch of screenshots to give it more context and just wrote out everything I saw throughout the gameplay that needed fixing during this run. At this point in time, we got Fable back. And so then this was when I put in a lot more work into just doing more all at once. So this was about prompt number 30 with Fable, the final AAA polish pass basically. So retexturing, relighting everything, making everything look realistic. We got the new features with NourStage with the lighting and everything that the AI can actually control through the MCP. So texturing can also be controlled by the AI as well through the MCP. I pointed out everything that was in NourStage and just asked it to smooth it all out. The Rake's path for the indoor and outdoor, so when the Rake runs in to the building and runs out of the building. I gave it the ElevenLabs API key as well to add all the sounds to make everything more immersive. I asked it to give each monster unsettling animations as well, or well, use the unsettling animations and sounds. I was very descriptive with what I wanted in terms of the sounds for each monster, and asked it to optimize the gameplay so that everything in terms of distance, like if the player is not near something, then we should not use the highest quality for certain parts of the map while the player is not in that area. So at this point in time, we were on prompt 31 at the time, and it was just the biggest pass. So I spent a whole day, probably 14 hours with Fable 5 during this time. I did bounce between Fable 5 and Opus 4.8 for certain things, especially the smaller things that were too easy to just give to Fable 5. It's a little bit of an overkill. But just to summarize what we did throughout the whole process, basically there was a few issues causing lag at this point in time from all the new stuff we added. So we went ahead and just fixed that. And one of the biggest ones was that same glitch that wasn't fixed earlier by 4.8 with the waypoints having collision. Fable 5 actually figured it out. Still not sure why we were tripping over waypoints. Would assume that that's not something that is physical in front of you, but anyway, Fable 5 handled it. And the other things that we fixed were the texture. As you can see from the video, we iterated through some pretty ugly textures, and you can tell that the tiling was not the best, not something that was smooth. And even now with the final version, it's probably not the best texturing, but still good enough for the gameplay at this point. And so we went ahead and added the neon. I wanted a neon sign. I didn't really get it the way I wanted it, but just because I have a deadline to meet, I wanted to make sure that I got that out to get this video out to you guys within the time frame that I gave myself. So left the neon light the way it was, played around with the light settings. I added other features to NourStage for skyboxes and more visual control over the environment itself, and also so that the AI can adjust all of those in the same platform without having to bounce around. So we adjusted the environment as much as we could while iterating through it. And I wanted to have a glowing outline on the assets that were something that the player could interact with. I asked it to add a glowing effect to it around the silhouette, but I'm not sure how to describe that in a way that it understands what I'm talking about. So I just put a light on it that was blinking. But my whole goal was to have it to where the player points the raycast at the actual object, it will have a white silhouette to it. If you're a game developer, you probably know what that's called, and you probably know how to describe it better, and you probably would describe it better to the AI so that it can do it itself. But I did not know what it was called, and so I just kind of stuck with the final version, which was just like a white dot. It's just a pulsing white dot on the object. Ran through the game loop a few times to figure out what other issues were needing to be polished and what other assets still needed to be replaced, like the phone, for example, and fixing the indoor lighting to where it was dark but not too dark where you couldn't see, but dark enough to when you turn off the lights, you want to know that the lights are off. And when the lights are on, you don't want it to be too bright, but you also don't want it to be too dark to where you can't tell the difference. And so we fixed that, and we also implemented the camera feed on the phone that you can toggle between when you're in the game, so you can actually see live footage of what's happening on the map in other rooms through that phone when you click through those. So that's useful, and it's a big part of the game loop as well, so that the player understands the storyline. It did take me a while to fix the spider as well. It was actually pretty creepy, the fact that it was like floating in the air at you. I feel like that was actually scarier than what it is now, but I wanted it to crawl on the walls, not fly through the room. So now the spider should only be able to crawl on the walls and on the roof, and if it gets right above you while on the roof, then it'll jump down. But if it doesn't catch you, then it has to jump back to the roof and crawl to where it gets close enough to you. The indoors finally looked good enough to where I could see around, but not too far ahead. And the texturing still wasn't fixed at this point in time, but we were getting closer to it. And so we fixed the phone, we fixed the waypoint issue, we fixed the spider fixes for mechanics. I attempted to redraw the map for some reason. It just, I don't know, I thought it was gonna be easier than it was. I gave up on that idea because I just thought it was way too much. It would have been easier to do it from the beginning, but the map was already drawn out. And I was trying to do it so that it was easier to create the texturing. For some reason, it's hard to texture the map that is already there, but it's easier to texture just shapes. So I was doing it for that purpose, and also to get better, the AI would just have a better understanding of where everything is if it was walls that it created itself through the MCP server. But that didn't work out as I thought it would, even though I did like how it looked visually with the new walls. The AI just wasn't able to put all the shapes in place to where they needed to be so that it was an exact replica of what was already there. So that means that I would have to do it manually, and we weren't going to spend another day on the map. So I gave up on that idea and just continued to work with the game loop with the existing map, and just learned that from that lesson for future projects. Now that we were at this stage, I started implementing. This was already toward the end, by the way. This was like 41 out of the 47 prompts that we had total. This is when we started implementing the cutscenes. So the cutscenes, I think, were the biggest part of the game that gave it more of a story, and also helps the player a lot know how to work through the story, which I'm assuming just based on my wife playing the game, but not sure if it's too straightforward or too on the nose, or if it's not enough. It's kind of like a balance. So I figured that I'm just trying to make it a balance where I'm not trying to give away the logic of how to get out, but I wanted to make it enough to where you get all the clues in place to be able to figure it out. The cutscenes actually do help with that, and the map actually, surprisingly enough, helps you navigate through the map when the lights are off, because it is kind of hard to be able to still navigate. You can get lost pretty easily when the lights are off. So the map on the top right corner actually does help the player navigate through the map and find the light switch, turn the lights back on. So that was actually like unintended, but it worked out well enough to where I've just left it as it was. So now that we had everything in place, we had the cameras, we had the cutscenes, the notes, the game mechanics were working, and at this point in time, it was just a matter of letting people test it to see how people play it and see where things need to be improved. But this is level 1 in my first actual serious type of development of a game from end to end, and I think I could take a lot of notes from this one to take to the next level, which I do plan on making. So if you enjoyed the video and you liked the game, comment down below if you played it, if you were able to complete it, and if you have any type of feedback at all that you want to share, please share it in the comments. All feedback is good feedback in my opinion, so even if it's something negative, don't worry, you won't hurt my feelings. And thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This video took a long time to make and a lot of money, as you can tell. If you enjoyed it, then like and subscribe. It goes a long way.